Mitakuyepi. Dayaya hipi. Anamaya huptampik decha. Wopida ichichiapia. Relatives, welcome to the Alive Framework. I appreciate you being here and going through this approach to language and culture and academic teaching because it will be so much more effective for your learners. It will also be culturally sustaining and student-centered, and we'll go step by step through the process of making it each of those things. This is the first step, and it's important to note here that while eventually teaching through the Alive framework will be student driven, student directed, it starts out being teacher directed, but student centered. And that's a really important definition because we are essentially going to be leading students through a process of becoming leaders of their own learning and unlearning the programming of the colonial school. So, to stick just to the pragmatic steps you need to take and not to go too deep into the theory, which you can explore in other videos or in the training courses for building your own curriculum and delivering it, we'll start with the very first step, inspirations. You're going to do something in this step that you're actually never going to stop doing. You're going to do it infinitely forever. So I recommend taking out your phone and an app that you always keep on all your phones that's backed up to the cloud or something like that, and creating a space where you will continue to always do this process. It is something that is drawn from your environment, but also it will grow as you grow as an educator and as a thinker. So you're going to do a really simple process. You're going to create 3 lists. These are going to be infinite lists that you're always going to add to. You might create them all in one file and divide them out, or you might create 3 files in the same app, whatever works for you. We're going to perpetually add to 3 lists. I'm going to say the titles of the 3 lists and let your imagination run wild. These are brainstorm lists. You already know a lot of what needs to be in your curriculum, so a lot of this will come to you very quickly. Then you'll kind of get stalled, and then new inspirations will come to you as you continue to implement the methods and learn more hands-on about this type of education. So the first list is going to be entitled Things I Want to Transmit to the Learners. So things you want to teach about, things you find super interesting, things you're passionate about them learning, or things you think have to be part of the curriculum, things I want to transmit to the learners. This is a brainstorm. Just list them. Just list them as you think of them. Just list everything you can think of. Just keep listing and listing and listing and listing and listing until you hit a natural pause. You may want to pause here. Give yourself time to do that because everything that pops into your head is valuable. Do not judge what is coming to you. Just pause this video. Make as much of a list as you possibly can. The second list is going to be called Things They Need to Know for Everyday Life. Now, here I specifically am looking for language routines that they need to know. So I'm thinking of you as a language teacher. If you're not always a language teacher, you're not only a language teacher, you may want to adjust the title to something like phrases they need to know or interactions they need to know in the language. And here I want you to envision that this learner of yours is going to use this language all day, every day in their normal daily life. They're going to use this language when they're brushing their teeth. They're going to use this language when they're getting out of the shower. They're going to use this language when they're folding their laundry. They're going to use this language when they're closing the garage door. They're going to use this language when they're getting on the bus. They're going to use this language in every mundane part of their life, which means that you are essentially going to brainstorm all of the mundane parts of their life. What do people do in order to be alive? You're going to make as exhaustive a list as you can of what someone would be able to handle in this language if they spoke this language 24/7, if this was their main language of living in. Generate as many things as you can. You will always be coming back to it. You can make a list of the things you do in your own day. Do a little mental get ready with me and make a mental list of all the things you do in a day and the things you're able to talk about or say about them or say during them or that you have to say in order to make them happen. Think about ordering your coffee. Think about correcting the order if they give you the wrong one. Think about properly disposing of the cup. Think about breaking off a meeting that you had scheduled. Think about letting your kids know you'll be a few minutes late to pick them up. Think about every single mundane thing that someone needs to do in order to live their entire life in this language. Pause this video, brainstorm as many of those as you possibly can. You will keep it going infinitely. And the third list, the most challenging but the most exciting, is things the learners are interested in. Now, when I say things the learners are interested in, I'm not saying things you want them to be interested in. And I'm not saying things that you are also interested in that they're interested in. Nope. Your feeling about these topics is actually irrelevant. It's actually irrelevant. You are going to list what they find interesting. If your students are really into playing Roblox, you don't know what Roblox is, you don't care, you've never played Roblox, write it down. Roblox. If your students are really into Taylor Swift and you're not into Taylor Swift, you've never heard Taylor Swift, you don't even like that kind of music, doesn't matter, write it down. If your students are watching a certain series on TikTok or they're into tutorials of a certain nature, it does not matter if you are not into that. It does not matter if you do not see the value in that. You will. List everything you can think of that they are into. Many of us, and I include myself, will run dry pretty quick on this one. We'll think of a few things that we're constantly hearing them mention. We'll think of some things they mention that we don't actually know what they are, what they mean. Add those and then Google them. And we will run out of things because a lot of times, especially if there's a big age gap with our learners, which there may not be, we may not find what they like interesting at all. We may not see the value in it at all. And that doesn't matter for these purposes. This is student-centered education. So not only will you make the longest list that you possibly can, and you will continue to add to it as you overhear things, as you notice that a name is coming up a lot in the news, as you see them wearing t-shirts of something, not only will you end up writing down things that you then have to Google because you're not sure what they are, you will also take this as your sign to become more of a detective. Listen more, listen in more, not in a disrespectful way, but like be interested more. Think of yourself as a sort of anthropologist. Maybe your learners are 40 years older than you. Maybe they're 40 years younger than you. Take an interest in what they find interesting. If someone tells you that they are so passionate about accounting and they work as a CPA, write that down. Even if you could care less, write it down, add it to the list. We're going to be developing something from it. All of these are going to pull together into the most compelling and effective curriculum that we can possibly build. So brainstorming is not a time for judgment. It's just a time for raw listing. Organize these lists in a way that works for you, that is backed up, that is always at hand, because random ideas will come to you at the most random times. Embrace that and just continue to add to these lists perpetually. This is the first step of curriculum creation, and it is a step that you will repeat infinitely. So enjoy.